Hi, everybody. This is Patty. Welcome to the Witching Hour. Yes, indeed, the hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens. We have magic from all the way across the pond for you today. I just did her fabulous show, The West London Witch. But let me introduce you to Becca Struzyna. Thank you so much for coming on, Becca.
Thank you for having me, Patty. It's so nice to see you again.
You too. This is so fun, and I love doing your show. Thank you for having me on. So I thought, my goodness, my audience needs to know you as well.
Oh,
So, you have a fabulous podcast. We'll send everybody to it called The West London Witch. And how did you become you don't sound like you're from West London. How did that come about?
that's a good question. No, I don't sound like I'm from West London. I sound like I'm from California, like
You
you, because
exactly.
I am. Very long story short, I was born in England. My family are from England. We lived here for a really long time, but my family moved to California when I was about 18 months old. So I was really, really little. I grew up in California, went to university in California. And then after college, I decided I wanted to go on a grand adventure. And since I had dual citizenship, it was very easy to come back to the UK. And in my head, it would be very cosmopolitan, very Sex in the City to move to London. Um, in actuality, it was very cold, it was very wet, it was very rainy, very gray. But I most certainly have had quite the adventure. And when I started the podcast, I was living in the beautiful and leafy West London, and the West London Witch came to fruition.
I love it. I love it. I love that we both have a sense of place. But me, the a good witch of Hollywood, and you, the West London. I think it's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Very
Um,
serendipitous.
So your path of you're obviously a witch because you have so in your title. How did that come about? Were you kind of raised magically, or is that how was your path? How you discovered your magical path?
Absolutely. I grew up with parents who really fostered a really lovely magical environment. With the literature that we read, with the music that we listened to, with the movies we watched, our home was a place where witches and magic and ghosts and fairies were very real and very ever present. My mom is really into energy. She's very, very intuitive. She's very into her chi. Our house had to be set up a certain way. Our bedrooms had to be set up a certain way. Um, and as I got older, I started realizing that all of this magic that they had set before us for us to grow up in wasn't just fairy tales, but it was very real and it was very present. And as I got older and started coming into my own journey, my mom shared with me more of her journey. And it's just been a wonderful path of magic and starlight.
I love that. That is absolutely beautiful. Um, again, being from here, being yeah, because London is cold for a California girl. Do you feel a difference? Again, we as witches, we feel the energy, and you're talking energy already. Do you feel the difference? Is your practice or your craft actually different living there than living in California?
That's such a great question. Um, And it's hard to answer because my practice and my craft is so simple and it's based around the everyday and the here and now and being present and being purposeful. So the craft comes with me wherever I am and I adapt. And I'm not a very strict and rigid person about how we practice. Everything is based off of what feels good and what feels right in that time and place. I think when I go back to California, I'm on vacation. So it's not quite the same routine and ritual and day to day that it is here. Um, but I always end up doing so much magic and, celebrating with my mom and doing witchy things together. So I guess maybe it makes me look at it differently because I'm now practicing with my mom, which is always a real gift.
That is beautiful. Are they still in Southern California area? Your family?
Yeah.
That's cool.
My mom, my dad, my brothers, they're still in the US. So I go back as much as possible. Um, and I have so many friends out there. So it's really wonderful to have a foot in both places.
Very widespread. So how about the podcast? Again, it's a beautiful podcast. What inspired you to do that?
Oh, thank you, Patty. This sounded so cliche a few years ago, but now that we've been doing this for 6 years, we have over 100 episodes. It doesn't sound quite so bad. But, during COVID, during the pandemic, I am in the arts. I teach theater and dance, and when COVID happened and lockdown happened, we went completely online, and working in the arts online was not very fulfilling. It wasn't very creative. It felt very stifling, and I was desperate for an outlet. I had all this creative pent-up energy. I needed something to do with it, and I've always loved spoken word. I've always loved the medium of storytelling. And I think that stems back from my childhood. My dad used to sit us all around and we used to read the Harry Potter books together as a family or The Hobbit. So this sharing of stories is really a part of who I am and how I like to fellowship with others. And so I decided I was going to start a podcast like everyone did in 2020. But I it was a wonderful way to connect. But as you know, Patty, when you start a podcast, you need to be able to have a long-term love affair with whatever the topic is that you're going to be getting into. And for me, I didn't want it to be about theater and dance because that was my day to day. I wanted an escape. And so I turned to my second great love, which is the paranormal and the spooky and the strange and the mysterious and the unexplained. And so the very first episode is my mom and dad telling the story of a haunted house that we lived in California that really kind of set my trajectory into the paranormal off at a very, very young age. It was perfect first episode because it's personal and it's a nice introduction, but it also meant that if it went terribly wrong, I could get my mom and dad back on the phone and we could do the whole thing all over again. But I knew how I wanted to set it up. I knew what the structure I wanted. I knew the shape that I wanted each episode to go. And then very fortuitously, I have very talented friends. So my husband wrote our theme music. A friend of ours did the cover art. And then one of my best friends, he made the really stupid mistake of saying, "Hey, Becca, this is a really cool project. I'd like to put some music underneath it and clean up your disasters editing and, your audio, which is all over the shop." And I said to him, I was like, "You can do that, Danny. But if you start this project, we can't have episode one sound beautiful and everything else be, what drivel I can contrive." And so Danny said, "Nope, send it to me." And he wrote original scores for every single episode we do. So we have beautiful music in every episode. He mixes it, he masters it, he fixes audio hijinks. And we've been doing this now for 6 seasons. And it's so wonderful to work with friends and be creative together and collaborate. It's just such a joy. And we have the most wonderful audience. So every episode feels like a gift for me and hopefully a gift for our listeners too.
That is beautiful. Oh my God, we're like the same person on opposite side. You're my little sister because that's how I feel about my podcast, my producers, my friends that I have come on it. You're a new friend. And I also have a theatrical background. I was a theater kid, dancer, and I have a feeling that those of us allowed with the arts go very magical because we've developed that creative brain, that right brain, that intuitive brain. So we see the world in a much less narrow way of magic. So kudos to your parents.
They were so good about making sure that everything was creative and supportive. And I mean, any parent who's willing to pay for their kid to do a bachelor's of fine arts in theater really terrible investment, but I appreciate it tremendously.
Oh, that's beautiful. So I didn't know that about you. That is really awesome. So again, by day, you're still doing the theater stuff and teaching and
Yep. So I have the wonderful joy of blending two things I love, which is the arts and academics. And so I get to teach theater and dance. I still do a lot of voiceover and audio stuff and radio plays and things like that, which is really fun, which is a lovely dovetail for the podcast. And it's such a joy to be able to every day do something that I enjoy.
love it. So speaking of media, and again, we both have podcasts. We're both on social media. Um, how do you see that in the crowd? Because witchcraft is obviously very popular right now as it comes and goes, but then we have all the witch talks and you could go either way. How do you feel media and what the world has become? Is it positive for witchcraft? Negative? Is there somewhere in the middle?
Gosh, that's such a great
Ah,
question. Social media for me, I have a difficult relationship with it because I don't get dopamine hits from getting likes on posts and whatnot. It's a necessary evil. And I enjoy the outreach. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy being able to share with people on another platform. That's great. But I personally struggle with the need to content create because I put all my love and my energy into the podcast, and you can't do everything and do it well. Um, so it's really interesting. There are some very unique corners of the internet, and I guess however anyone chooses to celebrate their craft is up to them. Um, but I don't ever want people to feel like if you're following someone online, that that's the way it must be done, or you have to have these ingredients for this, or you got to wait till a waxing moon in December on a Thursday or whatever. There, you don't need to use these sort of platforms necessarily as a strict religion.
right.
Me, it's a much more. I come from a much more organic and a simpler path, perhaps, which just doesn't make for great social media.
Huh? No, no, it's so funny. I'm very simple in my practice and my witchcraft too. And I do like getting content out there, but it's so hard because people they're new to it and they don't know exactly what you said. Do you have to do it on the waxing moon? They don't even know what the waxing moon is. It's like, well, if it's a waning moon and you need to do it, just do it. It's a if you want a red candle, use a red candle, even if it says purple candle. So, but again, I'm ever experimenting and struggling as how to do that and not do that. But yeah, it is hard. It is hard. I have a whole team of people that help me do it, and it is still insanely hard. 2 a.m. going, did I post today? It's like, "Oh, no, okay. Uh,
And it's also learning to be I'm such a perfectionist, and it's so funny you mentioned this. Yesterday, I discovered scheduling, on Instagram.
I don't know.
I did not know that before. I'm not great with this, but anyways, and I had scheduled posts. It was very dutiful. I was a good girl. I scheduled on my post, and 2 went out yesterday. And instantly, I was like, "Oh my goodness, I've messed it up. I haven't done it correctly." And then I just thought, "You know what? There are so many bigger things in this universe than 2 Instagram posts going out. It's not a big deal. And if people see it and enjoy it, great. If they don't, whatever." Because for me, the most important thing is that our podcast is always, I mean, my mission statement for the podcast is always that we can provide the best storytelling at the highest studio quality possible. And that for me is what is most important. So if it doesn't go right on social media, oh well. And it's a very forgiving space, social media as well, I think, as well. So it's fine.
Completely forgiving. I do it wrong every single day, and that's okay. And then you do it right. It's like, how did that I don't even know what I did right, but it obviously was right. I don't know what I did. So, let's go into the paranormal, the ghosty thing, because not all witches are into the ghosty thing. I certainly am from my years doing the TV stuff and talking to spirits since I was a kid. Did you have relationships? Again, I know you grew up very creatively, and you had a haunted house. Have spirits kind of been a part of your reality?
Yes. The very first episode of the podcast actually is called You Know This House is Haunted. And it is about that house that my family lived in. And the episode's wonderful because my mom and my dad share the story and they tell it from their experience. But very, very long story short, when we first moved up to Bakersfield, California, which is where I grew up, we lived in Orange County for a few years, then new opportunities and whatnot took us to Bakersfield. Now, my parents found this beautiful turn of the century craftsman style home with a white picket fence and a big porch and beautiful mahogany paneling inside. It was gorgeous. Um, Being from the UK, where everything is ancient out here, a home from 1900 was a new house for them. And it was quintessentially Americana. It was full of persimmon trees in the backyard. And I think that really spoke to them. But from night one, we had high strangeness in that house. And it started with our toy poodle, who my parents had before me, who was my best friend. He
Oh.
used to sleep with me every night. And the very first night we moved into that house, he refused to go into my bedroom. And my mom and daddy's a toy poodle. They picked him up, they put him in the room. He went scampering out, and they thought, oh, first night, new house, whatever. But that night, my parents woke up to a crash and a cry. And they come into my bedroom, and there I am, 3 years old, sitting on the floor crying, saying a witch had pushed me out of the bed. And they were like, oh, that's bizarre. Okay, well, new house, whatever. Get the kid back into bed, no worries. But this became an every night kind of thing. And I would tell my parents that there were evil people in the closet. Now, of course, this is not a scary room. It's a very beautiful little girl's room. There's nothing scary there. My mom started making kind of a pantomime out of it every night. She'd open up the doors to the closet and say, Captain Hook is gone. Maleficent's gone. The pirates are gone. It's all good. Go to bed. Everything's good. But every night it's getting worse and worse and worse. And then finally, my parents started realizing that they too were rather uncomfortable in the house. And the house started being very dark and very scary, very sinister. And they felt like they were being watched. They're doing the dishes. They're looking out the kitchen window, looking at those beautiful persimmon trees, and they can feel someone behind them. And they turn to see who it may be, and there's no one there. Well, long story short, we were only in that house for 4 months. It was that
Wow.
energetically icky. My parents thought, you know what, let's move on to a new home. And on the night that my dad was cleaning up the house, closing everything down for the last time, he's sweeping in the kitchen and he looks at that kitchen door where he feels like he's always been watched. And there is a woman standing in the kitchen door watching him. Just a white, diaphanous apparition of a woman. And apparently, according to my mom, he, locked the house up, jumped over the back fence, drove to the new house. She said he was sheet white, absolutely terrified. But my uncle in England had sent Christmas presents to the wrong house. He sent them to that house. So my mom goes, knocks on the door and says, sorry, my brother sent the Christmas presents here. And the new owner of the home goes, oh, would you like to come in? We've done a lot of work on the house. So my mom goes into the house, desperate to see what they've done, of course. And this woman sits my mom down on the sofa, hands her a cup of coffee, and looks at her and very earnestly says, you know, this house is haunted.
Mhm.
And my mom asked to really delicately balance the situation of you've just bought this home, you're doing all this work on it. And so my mom very diplomatically goes, well, it wasn't the warmest of spaces for us. And the woman said, no, this house is haunted. But the spirit's like me. But my son, who sleeps in the back bedroom, he's about 3. He keeps complaining of evil people every night. And I think that sent shivers right down my mom's spine because it's weird for toddlers to use that type of vernacular, and it was identical.
Wow.
And so this story was always shared with me. I know this story off by heart because my mom and dad have both individually told me this story a million times over. But even weirder, because Bakersfield's such a small town, one day we're doing a show at our local Spotlight Theater and we're down in the basement, bunch of teenagers telling scary stories. And I tell this story I just told you. And this kid sitting in front of me is, I mean, eyes the size of saucers. He's absolutely terrified. And he goes, I'm the little boy who slept in that back bedroom after you. My mom and dad bought the house. And sure enough, they did. They were the people. So we were brought back into each other's lives, and her parents updated us on the happenings in the home. And then when I started the podcast, I searched and searched for this family online. I sent the strangest email they'd probably ever received saying, I don't know if you remember us, but we're the people who lived in the house. And she was very warm and spoke to me about the home. And that's basically how that's the first episode of the podcast, but that's also my first step into the paranormal. And since then, and I know you're like this, Patty, once you kind of have one tangle with the paranormal, it seems to be ever present and ever
Ever
present. Yeah.
Oh, that is beautiful. And it sounds weird, but you have probably a lot older ghosts in London than you do here. That's what I noticed when I first started traveling. In Southern California, all of California, we're so new. There's nothing really old. Like a Victoria Craftsman as old as you get. We had all our haunted things were like mining towns because that's what we had. Virginia City, Nevada City in that central coast, Vulture City, Arizona, all these places. When I started going further and further east, it's like, oh, this house is from 1500 or 1600. Whole different vibe, the energy, the whole different spirits. And then the first time I went over across the ocean to the UK, it's like, oh, even older. So it is a whole different. I have actually not really done any ghost hunting or paranormal investigations. I don't usually hunting, but in the UK, I have a little bit more in France and castles, but it's a whole different thing. Do you do is it part of your world now, or are you just too busy with?
Well, oddly enough, it has become part of my world through doing the podcast. I'm very much a research girly. I'm very much a paranormal researcher. I'm very academic. So, in collecting these stories, I then go and do a ton of supplementary research to add more context to the episode. Um, but the first like full on overnight investigation I ever did, I was chatting to a paranormal investigator friend of mine who's been on the show a few times, and she had mentioned 30 East Drive, which I don't know. As an American, I had never heard of 30 East Drive. But during COVID, my husband and I, after we rinsed through the Tiger King and, Don't Fuck with Cats and things like that on Netflix, we ended up watching Most Haunted, which is a haunted the hour show out here. And they have this really sensational episode on 30 East Drive. And 30 East Drive is a basic, boring ex council house in Pontefract, which I thought was in Wales. It's definitely not. It's in northern England. It's nowhere near Wales, but it's supposed to be the most haunted house in England. And it's not a stately castle. It's not a mansion house. It's a regular 1970s brick built, semi detached house. There is nothing remarkable about this house whatsoever, but it has a very haunting poltergeist like story connected to it. And Bo said to me, do you want to come along to see us go 30 East Drive and experience it? So myself and Bo and two other women, we did this overnight investigation and we're going back again. It's interesting to see it from that side. And it actually helps me when I'm working on the podcast, now having done a few investigations, see how that works. And so when people are telling me about their investigations, I understand it from not just academic, from actually experience that kind of side. And that's been really fun. Um, but I think the most exciting thing about doing a paranormal investigation is, oddly enough, spending time with the living. It feels like you're children again and you're at play and you're open and ready for anything to come. And there's just a wonderful sense of adventure that I think we lose as we get older.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I do a lot of the conventions. I've actually, when this air, we're taping this just a few days before this airs. I'm packing up to go to Pennhurst, Pennsylvania, the big Pennhurst, like the biggest thing. So I'm probably flying home when this is first dropping. But it is, people get excited to bring magic back into the world. Our I say this so often, our modern Western, complete left brain, logical focused society, we've lost the magic. It's even out of most of our spirituality and religion, and paranormal is bringing it back for people who don't want religion. To me, it's like the next thing. A lot of people, oh, times are scary, go back to church or temple. A lot of people, witchcraft is the largest growing here in the state. But a lot of people, again, I don't want this woo woo stuff. I don't want religion, but I'm scared if we get blown up tomorrow. I want to know I'll be okay. Let's go on a paranormal investigation. Let's see if ghosts are real. And then they go and they find out ghosts are real, and then they sometimes backdoor into a belief system that will help support them. So, but you're right. It's that sense of wonder, becoming kids again, not just I go to work, I come home, I do this, I do that. I watch the same TV show. Is that haunted show that you went? Is that the one with Chris and my friend Jane Harris, who's a UK paranormal girl too?
It's Yvonne Fielding. and her husband, Carl. So, no, I don't think
It's a
it
different one than that. I think that one is like Help My House is Haunted or something like, but it's, yeah, a UK show.
yes, there's a few of them, and, they kind of, as you know from working on them, they kinda cycle in popularity, there's kind of a fad that happens where it goes in and out of fashion.
Right.
It's like any and every, and
Right.
which that we see right now is having that kind of resurgence, that renaissance as well, if you will.
Yeah, no, it especially here in the States, but just like a year or 2 ago, networks like, "No, no, no more paranormal if it's not making money," and there's only, like, 2 that made money, and but now but they don't know what to do. Now that they're streaming, it's like, "Well, we don't need network." The YouTubers are making more. That's why I started my Paraflix network to give people a place to do it, so, yeah, but I do think because, again, the world is scary and we want to escape and we wanna know, okay, it's bigger and bigger, so, yay, go start going anywhere.
I think that was one of the things with the podcast, because when we started in 2020, I didn't even have a name for the podcast, let alone any notoriety or clout. There was no reason why anyone should talk to me about their experiences. But because people were so bored and they were so tired of talking about the sad and the scary stuff, oddly enough, talking about death in a way that was whimsical and exciting, and there might be something else beyond, that brought people in. And it was a really lovely way of connecting to people as a form of escapism. And I think that you've hit the nail on the head with that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It keeps life it's much more exciting than again, just sitting home and doing whatever all okay. So, let's go back to the craft. Do you have, I like that you're simplistic. I'm very elemental in my work, and I know you did mention fairies and elementals. Do you have a regular practice that keeps you in your mindset, that helps you on your day-to-day living in 2026 with your craft, or
It's really unglamorous, it's really unexciting, but it's simple things like, you know, being present in moments like when I make my coffee in the morning, finding the magic in the rituals we already do. You don't have to go out of your way to set up an elaborate altar every day, but if you have a mindful moment with your morning cup of coffee, that can be really grounding, really centering. Saying positive affirmations every morning. This sounds ridiculous. My dog and I say my affirmations to myself and to my dog every day. Um, it's the way I run a bath, and I put the oils in the bath and then mix them in, and saying positive affirmations as I do that, using words that are present. I am strong. I am happy. I am abundant as I
yeah.
just run the bath. Every time I light a candle, I do a lot of lighting candles just to kind of shift from one energetic state to the next, particularly if I'm going to be creative. If I'm going to sit down and work on a piece of writing, creative writing, I'll invite the spirits and the salamanders to come and dance in this flame and help that inspiration burn within inside of me. And then when I blow it out, I thank them for that time and that space and that moment, and invite them to dance in the smoke and send it out into the universe. And it's all very, very simple. But if it makes you feel more present, if it makes you feel more grounded, gosh, it's worth doing. And it can always evolve and change.
Yeah, no, I we are. You're my little sister. That's it. I'm the same thing. In my first book, Old World Magic, I talk about the way you stir your coffee. It's in the bathroom, in the shower. So it's just little things like that to put it not just, oh, on the 8 holy days I do magic or only on, no, part of your life, what you're doing. So I love that. So if somebody's new and they're just getting started into this magical craft, um, do you have any suggestions of either like a ritual or a thought pattern, or would you what you're saying that somebody could do to, I want to get more present. I want to see the magic all around me.
Oh, gosh. I'm such a bookworm. So for me, I did a lot of research first. I read and I read and I read, and I kept the things that I liked like a little magpie, and I tossed the things that didn't serve me. Anything that was too complicated or it didn't feel like it aligned with the life that I want to lead. If it's a spell that requires 25 different exotic ingredients, I just knew that that wasn't something I could assimilate into my life. Um, but something simple as having a coin, even if it's just a random quarter you found from behind the couch, and imbuing that with the magic to be a little good luck totem to take with you throughout your day. Um, I think my biggest thing for new witches would be to see everything, to experience everything, take it all in, keep what services you, and release whatever doesn't. And don't try too hard. It doesn't need to be work. It needs to be fun. It needs to be purposeful. It needs to be fulfilling. And you will know intuitively those things that you always go back to because it works. The same as, a skincare routine or a workout routine. You know it works, you keep going back to it. And if you find yourself continuously drawn to maybe working with water or working with intention or casting certain spells or whatever it may be for you, then maybe dig deeper into that. Um, but don't feel like there's rules. There's no rules. You do whatever feels good for you.
Amen. I agree wholeheartedly. Well, this is great. I'm sure my people are absolutely adoring you. So before we go, tell everybody where they can find you, website, social media links, your podcast, of course.
Yes, well, please do come listen to the West London Witch. You can find the West London Witch for free wherever you listen to podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever. We are everywhere. And please do come join us on Instagram and Facebook. And if you have a spooky story that you would like to share, I would love to hear it. Being able to share people's personal stories is one of my absolute joys. And I would love to hear your story.
Thank you so much. You guys check her out. Becca, the West London Lit. You're a Litz again. Oh, Witch. Oh, I have a new name for you. Your new name. Thank you so much for bringing
Thanks
your
for having me.
magic to the witching.
Thank you so much.